Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to the show. So today we're going over episode 3 of Halo the TV show, and I'll give my thoughts on it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the episode opens up on the planet Oban, which is where a UAG Tier 2 waste salvage colony. So obviously, this is way before the current events, considering that this is how we're introduced to how Makee came about and why she is in the Covenant. So without further ado, next shot. So basically the story here is that she made a new friend. They eventually started to fall in love at first sight. They were about to kiss when they were interrupted by workers there. So they're naturally on the run. They eventually catch up to them, and thus they kill him right in front of her. And so that opens the door for the Covenant to show up and kill everybody, and they meet, and the Covenant were looking. These two elites were looking for something, and turns out they were looking for Makee herself. So because they need a human to activate foreigner artifacts, whenever that they find. So hence why she got the name the Blessed One. Back to present day, where Makee tells the prophets where she could begin her search, and she's gonna go to Madrigal and also to bring the Keystone, and she's also plans to bring them the Demon's Head, which, as we know now, is Master Chief himself. As we see here, moving on. Now we're back in Dr. Halsey's lab, where the Flash Clone is starting to kind of get familiarized herself, and they start preparing for the operation, where they start essentially kill her to extract her brain to create Cortana. Meanwhile, back in Dr. Halsey's lab, Halsey goes to talk to John about the operation as they're getting ready for it. John is not a big fan concerning that he's a Spartan, he doesn't need a babysitter, and that UNSC can't keep him off the battlefield for long. And Dr. Halsey argues, well, that's kind of what I said, but this is the only way to get you back on the battlefield where you belong. And so unless Chief goes ahead and does the operation at Ward 1 room, Dr. Halsey in the other room, it'll be her assistant and the clone. And obviously it is a success, is we get introduced to Cortana, where she obviously sees Chief immediately. Cortana does. So, and I gotta say, Chief is still in a comatose state from the operation. He'll be up within the next hour. So meanwhile, while Cortana waits for him to wake up, she kind of digs over like a bunch of UNSC related information. So, and she does that like really fast. Dr. Halsey noted, and so what do I do for the next 52 minutes? So which Halsey notes is very impressive. Now, back to Rebel. Hawk wants to go back to Madrigal to help free her people for independence, and Soren, I was like, you're staying right here. I cannot allow that. John gave me specific orders to keep an eye on you and protect you, which he doesn't see himself breaking that rule anytime soon. Now, back in Dr. Halsey's lab, Master Chief meets John. John meets Cortana for the very first time, and he quickly he did a compliment saying that she looks a lot like Dr. Halsey, and Cortana telling him thank you for that compliment. So, which is obviously but Chief dismisses her, saying he's not exactly fond of having AI in his head, but whether he likes it or not, that's how he's gonna be back on the battlefield. But eventually over time, as you see later, they start coming around. Next up, we have jumped to a UNSC patrol ship called the Gladius, where they're on a regular patrol when suddenly a Covenant Corvette actually exits slip space into their area, and so they turn around, and instead of firing at it, the Covenant actually kind of reach out, send an SOS, when in actuality Makee reaching out to them, faking she's under attack or whatever. And I gotta say, she actually did a good job, convincing the audience, myself included, that, really convincing act. I gotta give the actress props for that. She did a really great job. Anyway, we could see a tease of the Hunters, so we obviously already know what's gonna happen here. She's gonna, convince him to let her board the ship. Then she's going to use the hunter to kill everybody. So, and that's what happened. Now back in Dr. Halsey's lab, they're going to use John for the experiment to find out more information about this artifact, and so we get more memories. We see more memories from John. Cortana argues, like, I can analyze it faster if I have full control, and seemingly Cortana has the ability to place John in some kind of stasis when she needs to. That's interesting. I'm sure that will be used later on in the story, I assume so. Anyway, moving on. Back in the Gladius Patrol, they sent a lifeboat to retrieve Maki and bring her to the ship, and thus that is what leads to the attack. She seems to extract some kind of DNA from him. Interesting. Kind of like a weird thing, like a blade out of her finger. Very weird. But also pretty cool though. She tries to gain access to the UNSC database, and her access is denied. Anyway, moving on. So back on Reach, the rest of the Silver Team meets Cortana without John's permission, and he was not very happy about that. But he initially was going to tell him, that he's cleared for duty and such, and they already knew. So there you go. Anyway, later on, Chief is trying to find information about, I guess, relating to his memory, and with Cortana's help, begrudgingly, he finds out what he needs, and he begins to tell her about how, those visions he's seen, his memories. Not only does he see them and hear them, he can actually feel them. So later on, Cortana calls Dr. Halsey and telling him that Chief is trying to remove his emotional suppressor from his spine. And Dr. Halsey told Cortana to actually help them. And obviously, there's Dr. Halsey back in her lab as Cortana is telling her this. So now back in the bathroom scene, Cortana is telling Chief where to go and check the knife, and eventually with her help, he successfully ejects the emotional suppressor from his spine. Fortunately, and after kind of washing his hands out of the blood, Cortana tells him, Chief tells Cortana, thank you for the help, and she tells him, this is what I've been trying to tell you. Master Chief, I'm here for you. So, as we can see, Kai was actually watching them the entire time. The look on her face suggests seems like we're going to be keeping a closer eye on this development as we go along. So, I'm very interested to see how this address in the relationship between Chief and Kai progresses. It's going to be very interesting. Anyway, moving on. This is a clear shot of the emotional suppressor, and Dr. Halsey noted to Cortana that she will deal with it personally. Whatever that means, we'll see. Anyway, moving on. Later on, Chief takes a train down to a civilian area on Reach, and I guess when Cortana asked him why did they go there, and I guess Chief says, I don't know, kind of one of, feel thing, because he's never really felt anything before because of the emotional suppressor that is now removed from his body. So, very significant there, so it seems like John's character is, kind of developing. It seems that, Soren's conversation with him in the previous episode is, furthering on here, too. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, after that, Chief tries to gain access to the artifact again, but he's denied. Because, he needs a proper, its DNA requirement. So, obviously that would be, like Dr. Halsey, for example. He asked Cortana for help, and through clearance by Dr. Halsey herself, Cortana breaks in. And so we see more memories, and it turns out this actually leads to realization that back on Uranus 2, there's actually another keystone. At least from what we could gather from John's memories. And it turns out, it took so much out of him that he almost collapsed. And Cortana noted that Chief had, was very high pressure from all that took out of him. So, because he was in it for a very long time. So, with the artifact and all that. So, it took a lot out of him. And thus, he tells Dr. Halsey that these visions, they're memories of his childhood. And that he concluded that they need to go to Uranus to find this second artifact. And after talking to him, Dr. Halsey said, "I'm going with you." So and thus now we're back here. Makee is eventually trying to essentially reboot the system so that she can gain access to their comms and tell the prophets that she could not find any information on the artifact itself, or where it is, where they took it and all that. So she logs off, tells them, and the UNSC intercepts their communication, and so now that's kind of it for that. So obviously UNSC is going to keep a closer eye on their comms. So this is the ending scene, like where Dr. Halsey's assistant asked her, like, whatever you find on this Uranus 2, these memories, what if they're more than that? Like, what if John's, Dr. Halsey concludes that this artifact the two artifacts get together to, kind of create a huge opportunity for research, and her assistant argues the truth could destroy all of us, and Dr. Halsey concludes, and that is what Cortana is for. And that ends the episode. So, I'd probably say like this episode is definitely a step up from the last one. So, I really like how they're slowly developing Shiva Cortana's relationship. It definitely adds that like kind of Halo dynamic that has certainly been evoked in this series. So far so good with this series. I'm really liking it. So I never thought I would say this, but I'm really hyped for the next episode. So, oh boy, I'm very happy about this. So if I were to give the show, I'd say this was probably the best episode yet in the season. So we'll see. I'd probably give it like an 8.5. So I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, have you guys seen the episode yet? And if you did, let me know what you think of it. Anyway, that's it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe if you so choose to, and share this video around. And I will see you all in the next one. Later.